Yeah,
right?
could be.
I don't know.
I believe we are, yeah, I think I'm all set here.
Okay.
Commissioner Sung has joined us virtually.
Morning, Beth.
I got a video back today.
You ready, Monty?
We are ready. Yes, sir.
It's 9 o'clock and I'll call the county board to order. We'll begin with the flag pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, the people that are here. Roll call.
Commissioner Schlangen,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Pop,
Here.
Commissioner Kapinski,
Here.
Commissioner Heinen.
Here. Approve or amend the agenda. Is there any additions? I see one or two.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, we'd like to add the soil and water resolutions, which we discussed yesterday, as consent item number 8. Consent item number 8. There's 2 resolutions in that packet as Jerry presented yesterday. The second item is I'd like to add as the, under 955 County Administrator, I have a request from the folks over at CARE to operate their food stand again this summer. So I'd like to add that as the second item, 955 under County Administrator. And that's all I had.
Mr. Chair, Monty, if we're running late, do we just cut off and go into closed session?
We should. We tried to promise Susan Hanson, our labor attorney, that we would join her promptly at 9:30. I'm sorry, about 9:30. Actually, it shows on the agenda at 9:10. So we're good actually till about 9:30. We said roughly about 9:30. So if we're at that moment and we're getting behind, we probably should recess
All right.
and do closed session at 9:30. Yep.
Will you
Thank
keep
you.
that in mind, Steve? Remind me.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind,
Okay.
sir.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Looking for a motion?
Oh, motion to approve with the noted changes.
Second.
Mr. Chair, before we move on to the vote, just a couple minor corrections in regards to the draft of the last minutes. And I don't know, Monty, without Beth here, would you just like me to get these to you later?
You know, let's do this. Why don't you just pull those when you get to consent item, and then we'll just make those corrections.
Okay.
Yep.
You want me to pull?
Wait till we get to the consent
All right,
agenda.
okay, thank you. Yep.
So all in favor of the agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Do we gotta do roll?
Yeah.
Oh, we gotta do roll.
Yep.
Yep. Go ahead, you got called to roll because Beth
Oh,
is
that's
not here.
right. Of course. Thank you for reminding me. We need to do roll call votes because we have a member virtual. So, Commissioner Schlangen,
Hi.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Pop,
Aye.
Commissioner Gopinski,
Aye.
Commissioner Heinen. Thank
Aye.
you. I'm sorry. Who made the motion on that?
I did.
And who made the second? Okay. I'm taking notes.
I'm sorry, we'll.
We'll try to slow down.
Yeah,
That's
we'll,
right. My pen doesn't go very fast.
we'll call our names out, so you keep writing.
Speak really slowly. Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Announcement by the chair. County board meetings are broadcast live and video recorded on YouTube. Please restrain from speaking from the audience area and come to the podium so that the viewers can hear you. The county board observes Robert's Rules of Order for its meetings, so please obtain the county board's consent before addressing the county board. Public comments are generally reserved for open forum segment or the public hearing. However, public comments on the agenda items may be allowed at the discretion of the board chair. As we begin today's, please turn off your cell phones or turn your cell phones to vibrate. Thank you. Which reminds me.
Imagine that.
Open forum, I don't believe there's anybody up back there. Okay. The consent agenda, we have consent agendas numbers 1 through 8.
Yep.
Does anybody wish to have any of them pulled for further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to pull item 1, the approve or amend the regular minutes from the April 6th meeting, please.
Okay. Anything else? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items 1 through 8, or 2 through 8.
Yeah,
Motion to approve 2 through 8, Heinen.
Second.
gotcha. Okay.
Want to call the roll, Monty?
Yes, Commissioner Schlangen.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Pop.
Aye.
Commissioner Kapinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Hyman.
Aye.
Thank you.
Carried. Now we'll take up consent agenda number 1.
All right, just a couple small grammatical things to be changed, please. The first large paragraph that starts out, Johnson Kapinski, unanimous to approve the consent agenda. Towards the bottom of that, the second line from the bottom talks about between Maywood Township, Benton County for the bridge number over the St. Francis River in Maywood. It should not say Maywood Lake Township.
It'd be Mayhew Lake.
It should
Yeah,
say just
Mayhew Lake,
Maywood,
yeah.
not Maywood Lake.
Mayhew.
No,
Okay, got it.
it should
Okay.
say Maywood.
Oh,
not-
excuse me, Maywood.
Not
Gotcha.
Maywood Lake.
Gotcha. Maywood Township.
Yep.
Thank you.
And then on the third page of the minutes, again, in regards to County Engineer Chris Bird asking the county board about the Hanson property, if you look down to the second to the last line of that paragraph, it says motion by Johnson to table the request for appeal until it should say Hanson's, not Johnson's.
Hanson's, gotcha. Hanson's.
That's all I have on that.
You want to move?
Thank
And
you.
I'll mo- And
Got
I'll
'em.
move to approve those minutes then.
Okay.
I'll second.
So motion's been made and seconded to approve a consent agenda number 1 after the amendments. Is there any further discussion? If not, Monty, you want to call the roll?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Schlangen. Commissioner Schlangen?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Pop.
Aye.
Commissioner Kapinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Hyman.
Aye.
Carried. Next will be Troy Heck. Morning, Sheriff.
Morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
This morning I have a couple items before you. May and April are the months that we express thanks to a lot of people. And among those, today we're talking about having a proclamation for our correctional officers and our peace officers. I'll start off with the National Correctional Officers Week. The week of May 2nd to May 8th this year is designated as National Correctional Officers Week. This week is set aside to honor the men and women who serve in our county jails, our state prisons, our juvenile detention facilities, anywhere where the state is responsible for housing folks that have been committed there because of their behaviors. The job of correctional officer is not an easy job. They work in conditions that few people would volunteer to work in. You're dealing with people that have shown they have problems sometimes following rules and can be difficult because of maybe their personality, maybe it's a mental health issue, maybe it's a substance abuse issue, but it's a very difficult and taxing job. And we're very fortunate to have a great group of individuals in our jail and all across this country who are willing to do this important work of keeping folks who have been committed to jails and prisons safe, both to separate them from the general public and to make sure that while they're serving their sentence that we're keeping them safe as well, because that's equally important that everyone is safe and gets to go home at the end of their sentence or at the end of their shift. So with that, I request that the board approve the proclamation declaring May 2nd to May 8th as National Correctional Officers Week in Benton County in recognition of the difficult and dangerous work that the men and women in corrections do.
Any comments or, Troy, would you like to do these individually? I would take that.
Sure.
Okay,
Let's do it that way.
so any questions, comments?
I'd make a motion to approve the Correction Officers Week, May 2nd to May 8th, 2021.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the Correction Officers Week in Benton County from May 2nd to May 8th. Want to call the roll, Monty?
Yes. Commissioner Schlangen.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Pop.
Aye.
Commissioner Kapinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Heinen.
Aye.
Carried. Thanks, guys. Troy?
Very good, thank you. We'll move on to proclamation for National Police Week in Benton County. So the week following, May 9th through May 15th, has been designated as National Police Week. As the title implies, this week is set aside each year to honor the men and women who work as uniformed and non-uniformed licensed officers in Minnesota and all across this country. This job also is difficult and dangerous. And just as correctional work this past year has been made more dangerous, more difficult by coronavirus, so too has peace officer work been made more dangerous, more difficult by the pandemic and the civil unrest that's taking place all across our country. It's a very difficult time to be in law enforcement, particularly to be licensed officers. And we're always mindful of the sacrifice that people in law enforcement go to work each day knowing that might be asked of them. A part of National Police Week includes Peace Officer Memorial Day, which this year will again happen on May 15th. And that day is set aside to honor all those licensed officers who gave their last full measure of discipline and last full measure of sacrifice in giving their lives in protection of their community. I should note, like I typically do, that Benton County does have one member of the Benton County Sheriff's Office that did die in the line of duty. That was Deputy Sheriff Frank McGregor. He passed away back in 1931 while on duty for Benton County. So we're asking the board today to approve the proclamation designating May 9th to 15th as National Peace Officer Week in Benton County to honor the work of the men and women in Benton County and all across this nation who do this dangerous and difficult job.
Any comments or discussions? Otherwise, I guess I have a, do we do anything, Troy, in the sheriff's department or anywheres for, to make the week more special or anything? Or is it pretty rough to do something like that?
So I do my best to let our staff know that I appreciate them. I know that I do a lot of business at the bakery in Sauk Rapids on these weeks.
Okay, that's kind of what I was getting.
I know that there are also other supervisors that do their part to try to let their staff know that they're appreciated. So yeah, we take effort to make sure that they know that we do appreciate them.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the National Police Officers Week in Benton County from May 9th to the 15th.
Commissioner Schlangen.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Pop.
Aye,
Commissioner Kapinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Heinen.
Aye.
carried.
Thank you, Troy.
Thanks, Troy.
Thank you very
Everything
much,
do.
and again,
Thank you.
appreciate all the support we get from the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
We respect everything you guys do.
Yep.
See if Phil was gonna
At
join us.
9, pardon?
See if Phil was gonna join us.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for calling the Benton County Attorney's Office. We are unable.
We could always come back.
can find Phil for you.
Okay,
Thanks, Troy.
do we want to just pause for a little bit?
Maybe just pause for a few moments and maybe Phil's on his way. So.
Evidently the sheriff's got more pull than the.
Phil is on his way.
Okay, thanks, Troy.
We're early anyway.
Yeah,
We are.
I see that way,
So far.
which is unusual way for us.
Oh, right.
We had it at 9:10.
Scotty's showing up Thursday morning. That's close for you. You too?
Yeah, I went,
No. How many you guys expecting?
I seen the email from Amanda that we had 40 registered so far. But
I started registered.
tickets, but
Sorry, folks, we had the mics on. I see Phil has joined us. I'm sorry. Anyway.
Do we want to jump to Phil? I can go sit back down, or?
Well, let's, go as long as you don't need yours, it's just informational part.
Yeah, so I'll sit back down.
No, we could go.
Oh, you want me to go?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm trying to figure out my place in the world. Yeah, so jurisdictional transfer. So I think there might be some opportunity to maybe start talking to the other road authorities about this. We have a couple roads in mind. In my agenda item, I specifically listed our County Road 46 between Trunk Highway 10 and CASA 1 as maybe being a possible candidate. And there's a couple of reasons why I wanted to bring up this topic. One reason is when you think about, there's a kind of a hierarchy of roads. You think at the highest level of this hierarchy, you have the big interstates, the big multi-lane, high-speed roads that are connecting interstates, between states. And then below that, you have trunk highways, state highways that are designed to move people and goods between large cities or regional centers. And then below that, you may have a county highway, which is designed to connect to counties or the cities within a county. And then below that, you have the township roads and the city roads. And then even below that, you may have neighborhood streets. So when we look at some of these roads, it may be worth us to look at these and say, is this section of what's on the books is a county highway? Is it functioning like a county roadway? Or is there a more appropriate road authority or jurisdiction that it's under? Then the second line of thought is when we're looking at roadways, you know, we have limited funding just like everybody else. We have a lot of assets to take care of. If we don't have enough money or funds to take care of our assets, we either need to come up with more funds, or maybe we need to look at reducing our number of assets. And so that comes with some challenges as well, because the asset isn't disappearing, it's just becoming somebody else's asset. So one reason why I throw out County Road 46 is because that's part of our mill and overlay construction projects that we are already planning to do. So if there is some desire, some support to maybe talk to the city of Sauk Rapids, where this County Road 46 lies, we're planning on doing improvements on that roadway this summer. It's not like we're trying to get rid of a crummy road that we don't want to maintain anymore and give it to a lower jurisdiction. We're improving it, but maybe now's the opportunity that we can transfer a good condition road to another road authority. We also have a couple other roads right here in the city of Foley that we would like to talk about too. Several years ago, when Highway 23 was expanded to 4 lanes, to Foley, the old alignment of Highway 23 that comes into Glen Street, just south of the new alignment, was transferred or turned back to the county. So all good things roll downhill. That roadway terminates at the west end at our County Road 62, and then terminates on the east end at the city limits, or the old former city limits of Foley, where it becomes Glen Street. Now, there's an opportunity maybe now as the city looks at annexing more towards that direction. Is that county road functioning more like a city street than a county road? This may be, I'll add at this time too, this is a topic that we can talk about our upcoming committee of the whole, our road tour. We can maybe take a look at these roads and get some feedback from the board on what they would like to do with it. But I wanted to bring that topic up as something that we look at and we're thinking about at the highway department.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Chris, so in regards to County 46, if I understand you right, it's in our project, we're gonna mill and overlay it, and then we're gonna give it to Sauk Rapids, potentially.
Well, yeah, I'm just bringing that up. There's nothing in the works yet, so, but, yeah, so that would be the idea, is that we do improvements.
So why, I guess I'm confused why we would do improvements and then hand it over.
Because a lot of times, they're not always received willingly, let's
Okay.
say that. The last time we did this was almost 10 years ago, 9 years ago, and we actually executed a swap with a township, with Minden Township. We gave them one of our county roads, and then we took over one of their township roads. And the reason for that was because it's our County Road 80 today. It's on that alignment of the future 29 corridor. We did something similar. We did an overlay of our county road that summer when we transferred that over. We got their gravel road with that bridge on it that we're finally now able to replace. But we had overlaid our road before we give it to them. So it's just some kind of thing, just say that, maybe a goodwill thing. In the agenda item, I had included a section of statute that discusses this and the powers of a county board to do that. One of the things it also mentions is when a county transfers that road to another jurisdiction, in statute, we're obligated to maintain that for a period of 2 years after that is approved. So we would be snow plowing it for at least another 2 years, any other routine maintenance on that section of roadway, so.
Mr. Chair, Chris, do we have an agreement with the city of Sauk Rapids to maintain 46 and do all of that too, or not, or is that just?
That
on
is
the
not
county?
in our
That
current.
is not in it?
Municipal agreement.
Okay.
Any other discussion? We have done this before in county roads, cause County 42 used to go on the other side of 78 and then up to 2. And the township, that became a township road. I don't know what the swap was.
I don't know, that was a number of years ago.
That was a number of years ago, yeah.
You know, so
So it has been done before.
Okay.
So yeah, wasn't asking for any formal action now, just wanted to kind of throw it out there. Like I said, we can discuss it more on our upcoming road tour.
It looks like a good time as
That
long
would
as
be-
we're redoing that road to have the discussion with Sauk Rapids.
Correct.
Okay.
My guess is these aren't easy, discussions when you're trying to turn a road over.
Well, cause yeah, it comes back to that asset and being able to maintain that asset, and things like that. And so that's something we gotta look at too, from like a policy standpoint too, is like, what's good for the county, what's best for the county, what's best for Sauk Rapids, each entities will have to look out for those kind of interests.
Okay. Well, hey, thanks.
How does that fit in the half-cent sales tax?
So we are paying for that project out of our sales tax project. That's why it's another good candidate. If this was a CASA road, we couldn't do this, because we'd have to go through the state to transfer jurisdiction for CASA road. Since this is just a county road, the only sources of funding to maintain and construct that road are local sources like the sales tax or wheelage tax.
Okay. Thanks.
That's all I had on that topic, so.
Thank you, Chris.
Anything else? Any other questions for Chris? Nope. All right. So,
All right, I can step
Thanks.
aside and we'll get back to the agenda.
we'll go to Phil then.
Okay, I see Phil is with us. Phil is with us.
Good morning, Commissioners. Always great to start off the meeting when I haven't met some of you with an apology. I also apologize to Mr. Bird, but I'm thankful that he's able to step in and address his issues. I wanted to basically get on board with the agenda to introduce myself. As Phil Miller, the county attorney, is obviously the public commissioners I know fairly well and know Monty quite well. Just kind of give you a brief overview. I know that you've become familiar with Michelle Meyer, one of my trusted assistants. She handles the vast majority of the civil work and does most of the work for the board and other departments. Just as a quick overview, I came to Benton County about 7.5 years ago to finish the term of Robert Rupp, who had been appointed to the bench. I've been an attorney about 33 years, and I've been a county attorney since 1997. Most of my time as county attorney was spent up in Lake of the Woods and Cootaching County, up on obviously the northern border of the state. So that's kind of where my quick professional background has been. I've always been in a city attorney or county attorney's office for my 33 years. So one of the things I had wanted to do, and Commissioners Pop and Heinen are both aware, is that our office has had some growth and some growing pains the last few years. We've, with all the increased caseloads, last year was a minor exception. We actually went down in the number of cases, but in my time here, we have increased every year the number of case files our office opens. Last year, there was a slight decrease. And when I say slight, I mean, I think it was down by 20 versus 2019. We are easily on pace to exceed our 2020 levels. And part of the problem we have is that we have another opening in our office. We have a former employee who is now a former employee, assistant county attorney. She was only here for a few months. And so we are in a position where we will be advertising very shortly, and I've been working with Johanna Matson, HR director, with that issue. We are also in the process of hiring a paralegal, which is a new position for our office. With the county board's assistance, we had basically eliminated a part-time legal secretary position, and that's been converted to a full-time paralegal position. In the meantime, we were able to bring back a former employee, Vicki Eckberg, who had retired a few years ago, but she is helping our support staff fulfill its role. I should also very briefly, part of the reason that you haven't met me till now is I had some health issues starting back in November. I'm not going to go into great detail. I have by and large recovered from those health issues. I've been back in the office starting in February. I was in the office a couple hours a day for 2 days a week as I tried to regain my strength after open heart surgery, and back in the office mostly full-time beginning March 1st. Also advise the particular newer board members, I live near Territory Golf Course, just so that people kind of know where I live and have been living. When I first moved down here, I lived up in outskirts, in the suburbs of Rice, for a while in townhomes, until I was able to secure permanent housing. Briefly touching real quickly on the opening for assistant county attorney. One of the things that Monty and I had our quarterly meeting last week, and kind of discussed with him, part of the challenge that we have, particularly in this office. The good thing is that we have a unique issue of longevity within this office. There's only one attorney in this office who's been here a shorter period of time than I have. And longevity goes a long ways in helping the efficiencies of this office, the knowledge that the attorneys gain the longer they're in practice. Obviously, the more they learn and the quicker they're able to turn around requests for whether it be legal opinions or quicker they're able to handle questions from law enforcement, hopefully the quicker they're able to process and handle the ever-growing number of criminal cases that this office handles. So we do the prosecution for the city of Foley. We also do the major crimes for the vast majority of the county at large, with the exception of Sauk Rapids and Rice have Colin Reuter prosecute the lower level crimes that occur there. And of course, the city of St. Cloud has a city attorney's office that handles the petty misdemeanors and some of the gross misdemeanors of the city of St. Cloud. But part of the issue that we have had with the position that's now open is that we've had issues with longevity. That position started off as a 3/4 time position. It progressed to be full-time, given the ever-increasing criminal caseload we had. And quite frankly, since that time, we've had some issues with turnover. We've now had 3 different attorneys fill that position in the last year. And I think that's part of the issue when we are hiring at the very low end of the pay scale. While people in the general public may not think that the salary is that low for people that graduate from law school and maybe $100,000 or more in debt. That a salary range, salary, in the $70,000 range is really not that high. So what I'm hoping to be able to do is that as we advertise and post this position is that able to post at a little bit higher rate under our current pay scale, hoping that be able to post at a level 5. In the past, I've sometimes had the flexibility to hire at a little bit higher range. When we had a retirement a couple years ago, about 3 years ago, I guess, and was able to hire a replacement at a step 5 in the pay grade, which is 14 for an assistant county attorney here. That assistant's now been here just about 3 years. So what I'm hoping is, again, we've had three different people fill this position in the last year. And quite frankly, with what we've paid in time, resources, not only in posting the position, but in training, and here we are again, at the same starting point. And so what I'm hoping to do is hoping that we would be able to hire at a little bit higher range than step 1, 2, or 3, and hopefully be able to hire at a step 5, which would increase the salary by a few $1,000s to the prospective applicants. I think that would do much to increase our applicant pool. Quite frankly, I know when we hired Mr. Snyder about 3 years ago after the retirement of Becky Hoffman, we had a very qualified pool. Since then, the applicant pools that we've had have been, we'll say, challenging at best. And part of the problem, even when I think we've always taken the best candidate, twice we've had situations where we felt the person who was the best candidate turned us down because of the combination of the pay and benefits. That's just being blunt, which is my general style. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste mine or my office staff's. But it has been, again, very much a challenge. The last year plus as we've processed through different assistants. And so I guess as part of what I'm looking for is the ability, in speaking with Johanna Matson, that we may be able to post the position and hire at a little bit higher rate than what's called for under the present guidelines. And with that, I will open myself up for any questions, anything else that you need.
Questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I got a comment. I am not a huge fan of retraining people 3 times over. And it's obvious that this is what's happening here, and we keep losing people to other jobs, so, I'm in favor of trying to work with them to make sure we get a good pool of people and keep that pool of people here.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Monty, maybe you could speak to what the actual dollar differences are that we're talking about here.
Grade
1 versus 5. Off the top of my head, I think here for a second. It would be probably, in terms of starting, probably 5,000 to 7,000, somewhere in that range. So, I mean, it can make a difference. Typically, when you've had someone that leaves and they're at the top of the range, it gives you some budgetary flexibility to start someone from 1 to 10. But when it's budgeted at 1 or 2, then it's a little harder to do that. But I think you want the best person you can get, and we want that retention. So I think it's important to be flexible on that subject. And not say, well, it's budgeted step one, that's the most you can go. And that's the flexibility I've tried to encourage folks to think about. It's at the end of the day, you want the best person you can get and not get too terribly concerned about, the budget. So,
Mr. Chair.
If I may, I do have the pay scale. I don't know, Monty, if you have that.
I'm looking at it right now, yeah. What pay grade we talking about?
Right now, it is pay grade 14, and a step one, I believe, would be about $70,000.
Right.
Step 5 would be just
80.
over $80,000.
80, yep. So I was a little low.
So that's obviously about a $10,000.
Yeah, it's actually about 10,
difference.
yeah.
But I think, quite frankly, the applicant pool would significantly improve.
Okay.
In fact, I'm quite confident in that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Monty,
My hope is with that we get someone who is not fresh out of law school, because quite frankly, we don't have the time. We're looking at impending retirement of another attorney within this office, and we are doing jury trials now. Got 2 homicide cases coming up. We have armed robbery jury trial coming up. Next week, we got a trial on financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. We are, right around like chickens with their head cut off. I mean, again, my staff is great. They are experienced, those that are here. But we are treading water and perilously close at this time. We need someone, preferably someone who's gonna have some experience and can step in and, well, maybe not run, be able to walk pretty fast.
Steve?
Monty, do we need to do a motion on that, or can we just have a consensus?
I think consensus is fine, yeah.
I guess, both Phil and Joanna, do you agree that raising the pay scale would help with this?
Yes, yeah, I mean, I think what Phil is asking for is permission
To do it, yeah.
to advertise it
Yep.
as shortening the scale from a 5 to an 11 is what he's at, instead of doing the lower half advertising.
Mr. Chair? I think personally, we're spending the money regardless, whether it's if you look at 2 hours per week in inefficiencies, as well as training, and then the posting for the new people, plus all the time it takes to hire somebody, we're spending this $10,000 whether we like it or not.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I agree.
And I should just mention, Mr. Chair, is that, I know this position was budgeted at, in 2021 to be at step 4. So it isn't like there's a huge gap. And frankly, when we've had positions that are vacant when we're doing the budget, I budget them at least at step 3 going forward. I don't budget them at step 1 anymore, because the reality is we're commonly starting people at above step 1. That's been very common lately. Step 3, step 4. So this is budgeted at step 4, so it won't be a huge issue for the county attorney budget, so.
Okay. So do we need,
Yeah, I think that'd be about a $2,500 difference.
Yeah.
We just about spent that just now.
yes, Beth?
Yes, I would say that if we have somebody that's qualified and you don't need all the extra care to get them up to speed, that is very reasonable.
Okay, thanks. So I think the consensus is that we can move forward with that, Joanna, on that. I don't think there's any objections to moving that step.
Sure, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Phil.
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Phil.
Anything else? You got any other updates for us? Okay,
Thank you, Phil.
thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Phil.
At this time, we'll recess the county board to conduct human services.
At this time, we'll call the Human Services Board to order. Anything to add to the agenda, Bob?
Yes, I'd have one item. That's a discussion on the zoning board meeting tonight in St. Cloud.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the amended agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Sure, Commissioner Schlangen.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Pop.
Aye.
Commissioner Kapinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Heinen.
Aye.
Thank you.
Consent agenda, we only have one on there.
Well,
I'll move to approve.
We got Scott
I'll second.
and Jarrett for a second.
Who got the first? Okay, yeah,
Johnson.
yeah, okay, gotcha, okay.
Roll call, please.
Of course, Commissioner Schlangen. Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner
Are we
Pop.
roll call or are we just
Aye.
voting?
Commissioner Kapinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Heinen.
Aye.
Sorry about that, I'll slow down.
Okay, Bob.
Thank you.
And Bob, I did give them copies of my draft
Yep.
talking points, possibly for tonight, so.
Okay. All right, what is in front of you is just some thoughts that I had pulled together. I think what we have to do is tonight, we're going to be, I'm not sure exactly how that's gonna roll up, but I believe that that's what this conversation is about, is who's gonna represent Benton County and what's gonna be said and so forth. And I think Monty has asked me to present some piece depicting how this is gonna affect Benton County. And as we talked about in the cow, I've been beating this drum for 5 or 6 years, kind of what's on that paper there, and this might be a little bit direct. In fact, it probably is very direct, and I would welcome the board to tell me, Bob, no, or certainly support that or whatever. I threw this together kind of just as some thoughts on paper, so I do have to adjust some things. And Sandy has, between us, we have a lot of stats that we kind of have to try and figure out what we're gonna do as far as putting these stats together, but for the most part, and Commissioner Schlangen, I did email you a copy of that form as well, so it should be in your email. So, I guess from where we are right now, to open it up to what's your thoughts, how we want a game plan for tonight and so forth. Monty, do you have anything to add?
I guess I was gonna suggest that our leadoff person would be one of our board members. I think it's important to have an elected official representing the county speaking, maybe at the higher level. And then you kind of drill down and maybe go to staff to talk about maybe some more of the detailed impacts upon human services and other commentary. But I think it's good to start out with an elected official representing the county. So I know some folks can't be there tonight, but,
I can definitely be there if,
okay,
Are you willing to take that on?
absolutely.
okay, sure. You know, again, you've got some draft talking points, feel free to use these or add your own, please. I don't know how much, I guess we'll find out tonight how much time each speaker gets.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
It was only 3 minutes at the last one.
Yeah.
per person, yeah, so it's one page, so it'd take you 2 minutes to get through it, yeah.
Okay.
And you do need to register ahead of time.
Correct.
Yeah, we'll make sure you get signed up to speak.
To speak, you need to register, right?
Yep, that
Can
is
be in
correct.
person, I believe.
Yep.
No online option.
Okay, well, the directions we received said you have to be there in person, but maybe
yeah.
it's,
Oh,
Yeah.
to speak?
Yep.
You still okay with that, Jared?
Yeah.
Okay.
I plan on being there as well in person,
Okay, so we'll have you there, Bob, and then we'll have Jarrett there.
yes.
Commissioner Schlangen, are you gonna be there or not?
I'd like to be there. I got a cold right now, I probably shouldn't be there, but
Okay.
there's another project that they're working on over here by Highway 10
Yeah.
that it's right next door to us, and I'd like to have some comments on that too, but
And I don't know if that's on the
it sounds
agenda.
like I should be virtual.
Yeah, I know Commissioner Schlangen, I've seen on their website, you can watch it on the city's cable TV channel. I'm not seeing anywhere where there's a virtual option, though. It just can't be viewed on the cable TV channel.
And chances are, if they know you've got a cold, they ain't gonna let you in either. If,
Yeah, I
You know.
have to have my sister get over there.
okay. Okay, so for sure we'll have Jared and to assist you, Bob,
Yeah,
this tonight.
the rest of us have got other commitments for tonight.
And that's fine. I think that we all agree that it's probably too late to win this battle,
Right.
but I think that we need to enter the war. So I think as far as I'm concerned, that's why, I want your candid comments, if you will, if you're okay with me representing Benton with what I put here. I do believe that it's something that I think we should have said clearly and concisely as far as where we stand and so forth. But again, this is for future opportunities. I think that this one probably is a little bit too late, but we'll see.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
You got me.
as I mentioned. Oh, Mr. Chair, sorry. I can still play the new card, right?
No respect here.
Yes.
But, Bob, I'm really concerned on how they can vote on this. We don't have to vote on it, but we have to pay for it.
Yes.
I'm dumbfounded on that.
Well, this is why it's so important for us to get involved, and I think I came about 5 years ago with something similar to this, but I think it was just not the right time. We were focused on getting our tax levy down, and there was just a lot of other focuses at the time, but I think right now, things are different, and this is something that's directly happening right now that will impact us. And the other things were just superfluous things happening continuously over a course of time, but this is a bigger thing. So I think that that's why it's important for us to jump in and tell them what we think.
And I will play the new commissioner card. I mean, I think we gotta have some answers on that. I don't think they would like us making decisions for their county.
Well, the interesting piece was that I brought this to the directors' meeting last Friday, and Sandy was sitting in on it as well. And I got a little bit of a sample on what we can expect to hear.
Yeah.
And if you're interested, I can certainly mention some of those things.
Please do, Bob.
Yes.
Well, I just add one important point. I mean, it appears that, folks have been working on this solution for months and months. We just heard about this a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Correct.
Why were we not invited to be a part of that discussion?
Yep.
Well, and
That's confusing to me.
Mr. Chair, I for one heard the tone or read the tone in the letter that was submitted, and it just came right off the page. There was a tone,
Yes.
and it was not a nice one.
Well, a couple of the things that happened was immediately the response was that, well, Benton County just hasn't provided any type of capacity or any resources to help this. And I did some crunching, and Benton County has the most workers per capita of the three other counties in our region. So we do have more people, but it comes down to economy of scale. When you start talking about 400 workers versus 100 workers, you can just simply get more done. Second of all, we have not put a penny toward our homeless population. Well, the point was that Stearns County had 3 people that were on a grant that were doing that for the whole St. Cloud area. So it was a situation where we just simply didn't have to get involved. We didn't have to put in money because the grant already took care of that. The problem is that grant went away. So at that point in time, it was brought to our attention, and Sandy can attest, we started working on that, and you all approved a $20,000 CARES package to start working on that. So once it came to our plate, we did work on that. So I think that that's just the idea that we're gonna get hit with as well. You guys underpay your staff, you don't have enough resources, you have swept things under the rug for a period of time. Those are things that we heard, and I tried to combat right away. And I said, furthermore, our last board, they had an awesome job of getting us from 6th or 7th worst tax base county in the state to now, we're 20-something.
22nd or 23rd.
The point was,
23rd.
is they did have a responsibility because we had companies leaving, we had companies burning down, et cetera. But the point is that they had a responsibility to get us back in line. So that was my response to us saying we didn't have the capacity, et cetera. So I think that those are some of the things that we're gonna end up facing as are you Johnny come lately type thing? No, not really. So just to let you know that.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
On this 3 minutes, is it gonna be a shared 3 minutes, or do I get 3 and Bob gets
We
3.
should both take 4.
In listening to the previous board minutes, they did let some of the speakers go over, their 3 minutes. So I think I'd feel comfortable going over 3 minutes if you have to.
I believe mine is gonna be like a minute, but I think their reasoning better be quite a long time.
I would ask that maybe one more piece that you can lend is, well, all this complaining that we're doing, et cetera, what are we gonna do about it? And maybe if you can think about something that, what we're willing to do, and I think that we are willing to do this. We're willing to be part of the solution versus bringing the problem with no solution. So I think maybe, that's something that you guys can talk a little bit about and come up with, well, we will be involved, we will commit to doing this and commit to a community effort of all 3 counties to doing this. So I think that might be another piece, because if it comes from me, it means something, but if it comes from you, it means.
I do believe we need to do our partnership on this instead of them just throwing it at us. We have to join a partnership to make this work.
Mr. I was wondering, was Amanda BP interested in making any kind of commentary tonight? What do you think?
I mean, I certainly can if the board.
Well, that's up to you, I
desires.
guess, yeah.
Part of our presentation is the fact that it's gonna have an impact on businesses. As Commissioner Heinen said, there's companies taking pictures outside their businesses of people loitering and things. So this is already businesses noticing this, and it's gonna impact your job as well to bring in new businesses. If we have our main corridor through St. Cloud is even more populated with that, with those types of facilities, so.
Yeah, there's about 7 businesses in that corridor that they've got pictures and everything of what's happening to those businesses because of this.
But I wanna really try to curb this as it's not about the homeless population so much. We really do need to do our part, and that piece has been being done for us, but we need to step up, and that's the piece that I don't wanna get lost in all this, is that we will do our part, and we will move forward, but all of it is being moved on to us.
I agree with that comment, and that's my problem with it, is how can we end up paying for everything, but we haven't been brought into the solution, the full solution at this point, until a couple weeks ago. That to me is not working together, it's directing us.
And my plan is to read this in 3 minutes. That's what my plan is.
I guess the worst case scenario, they cut you off, right?
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So because the grant ran out in Stearns County, are they gonna continue to fund them 3 positions?
Maybe you wanna speak just a minute on that, Sandy.
They have been funding it, so it probably has been, I don't know exactly, 2 years maybe since they lost. I'm not exactly sure. So it didn't just happen
Okay,
last
gotcha.
spring.
Yeah.
So they have been funding it. So truly they have been. It just hasn't risen to our attention, I guess. And I think what happened is when the pandemic occurred, there was a lot of money to put people into those motels. And that's when this all really heated up, is when we had those hotels and we had those big homeless camps that were really obvious, right there like by Shopko or by Costco. Some of those that were very obvious and causing a lot of problems in Stearns County and in Benton County. We had pretty big homeless camp in our area as well. But I think the pandemic really moved things along, and that also brought more homeless into our area because they were offering hotel rooms. A hotel room is a whole different situation than what you would see if you go to the warming shelters. There you're in a recliner right next to a bunch of other people that are in a recliner. It's a big room with a lot of homeless people in, as opposed to their own hotel room with their own shower. So that did bring a lot of people here, and that has upped our issue.
Okay.
I can tell you it's been an ongoing issue. So ever since you sent that link and I watched it, I've been driving down that area, not every day, but every other day. And I can tell you Stearns County Sheriff's Department is there all the time.
St. Cloud PD is there a lot, yes.
Yeah. So it is a serious issue.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner
I would
Schlangen.
like to ask him if he's had a chance to talk with Carol Smith with the Place of Hope. I know they've done a lot on the Stearns County side, and she's also talked about helping out on this side too, if that option would be available. So, and she's got a program that has worked for the city.
Go ahead, Sandy.
I do know that Pastor Carol has been in contact with us on and off throughout this pandemic. She has not been at the last several meetings I've gone to in dealing with the homeless. So I haven't heard a lot of updates other than that I understood that the facility they opened at Passages was going to close for lack of funding. So that was their extended beds they had. We've been trying to get an update on how many number of beds they have at Place of Hope, and I don't have that number yet.
Anything else?
I don't think so. That area could be beautiful in 10 years. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Hey, Bob,
Yes.
if I could get maybe a few minutes after
Yes.
the meeting and stuff, I'll shoot you a call or something.
Okay, sounds good.
Great, thanks. Anything else? At this time, we'll turn it right back over to the board chair.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Jared, for taking part of that tonight. At this time, we'll ask Roxanne.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Monty, what time do we have? Oh,
Good. 10:30 was the expected
Oh,
time.
10:30.
10:30, yeah.
Oh, okay, because we had 9:30, but that's fine. 10:30 is good.
10 for the closed session?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good. We're
Okay.
good. Yeah, 10:30.
Great. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
I got it wrote down.
Okay. Good morning, Commissioners. Mr.
Morning.
Morning.
Just a brief update on the orderly annexation agreement between the City of Foley and Gilmanton Township. I know some of you are probably more well aware of what is going on with this and what it all involves. But I just wanted to give you a brief update. They did come to an agreement on, I think Gilmanton Township signed this agreement on March 17th, and the City of Foley signed it on March 19th, and it was immediately forwarded to the state and accepted by the state. So this agreement allows for a joint planning board to be created and joint land use control over this area. We created a layer on Beacon to give you an idea of exactly where those properties are. Everything in orange is part of the orderly annexation agreement. Purple is City of Foley, that is the city limits. So we have, you can see there's a couple of different solar properties. If I turn this layer off, there's solar in this area. There's solar going down here, there's solar up here, and that was part of the reason that they wanted to gain a little more control over this area. We couldn't simply rezone it and preclude it from solar projects, but for the City of Foley and Gilmanton Township to take over the future uses and growth of their property, they needed to come to an agreement on how that would happen. And so I provided you with the orderly annexation agreement, and I can attempt to explain anything if you'd like, or find answers to you, find answers for that for you. It's about 840 acres that are affected by this. The idea is that Highway 23 corridor where they're most likely to see some sort of growth. They will have the joint planning board will be two individual, actually it'll be two supervisors from Gilmanton Township and 2 city council members from the City of Foley that will be on this joint planning board. All subdivision, all conditional uses, everything will go through this joint planning board. You look like you have a question, Commissioner Heinen.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I was just questioning why it's two council members versus a council member and a planning commission member.
That was their choice. They were allowed to make that decision on who would make up this board, and that was what was chosen. So, with that, I've informed my staff, anything that the city asked for or the township asked for on these properties, we'll get it to them as quickly as possible. So our jurisdiction over that for land use has ended, except for they've asked us to continue with Wetland Conservation Act enforcement and application review, and then septic enforcement and review. With that, we asked for a service agreement, just so that we're providing that service. We'll continue to keep all of the fees that are related to that. It would be treated the same as it always has been. There wouldn't be any extra processes or fees that would have to be paid. So Foley and Gilmanton Township will have to send us some sort of an agreement. We'll continue to do it at this time, but eventually we're going to need some sort of an agreement for that. City of Foley's building inspector will take over that area, so the county inspector will no longer be inspecting those properties. Other than that, are there any questions on this?
Any questions? No?
It's done.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a long time coming.
And probably needed.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have the ability to tell them no on solar or to change the zoning district or anything just specifically for this area. And this was a way for them to gain that control.
Okay.
Okay, I'll just close out of this. Okay, the next item I have up is a request for an overlap in the Wetland and Solid Waste Program lead. Our person will be retiring anytime between August and April of 2022. Right now, we don't have a date certain, but that is something that we would request prior to hiring, is that we would have in writing a retirement resignation letter submitted. The reason being is that given the small department that we have, we just don't have the ability to cross-train other staff and to take on that additional work for them. So we've got a close-up here. I don't know what's going on.
Thanks, Monty. You find a new tool over there?
We need to make sure Beth is back.
I didn't do anything.
So with that, we would like to consider hiring somebody so that they can train under our current wetland lead person. There is a lot that goes into this position that's very critical. We know that Benton County is extremely wet, and so we have a lot of applications that come in for wetland delineations, for technical evaluations, and different things like that. So I think it is extremely critical to bring somebody in to allow them to train under our current staff member. We do have funds. My initial thought is to fund half of this position through our solid waste, which has an abundance of funding within that. And so if we fund a position from, let's say, June to December, so you've got roughly, if we got somebody in June, so 6 months, 7 months, half of that position is maybe $40,000 for a year. That's probably a little high. If we fund half of that, $20,000 through the solid waste, we have $20,000 that we need to find funding for. Based on my evaluation of our budget, last year we were under on our expenditures by $37,000, so under by 8%. And we were over on revenue by $46,000, so over by 18.7%. So I think we didn't change or take away anything for our 2021 budget. The only thing we adjusted was the amounts that we were taking out of our reserve funds. So I think we can comfortably accommodate $20,000, just given what 2020 looked like. So with that, I am looking for an approval to move forward on this or provide more information if you need it.
Chair, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, just a clarification, is that August of this year through April 22 of next year?
Yep, and
Okay.
it kind of just depends on personal situations on when this person is able to retire.
I guess that's if we're gonna bring somebody on in June and they run all the way to next April, that, we're looking at 10 months.
Yep.
And that probably seems a little long to me to have somebody training for 10 months if we had a more secure date. I mean,
So part of the reason for the overlap that I'm looking for is that our wetland season is limited. It's a shorter season than you'd get down south or whatever. So right now is prime wetland season, lots of delineations and stuff. Our winter months are more of our solid waste months. So that's where that's gonna come into play.
And Mr. Chair, if I understand correctly, our person that's retiring, that retirement could come much earlier than March. So that overlap could be very short.
very short, right?
Yeah, and so I definitely agree with Roxanne's proposal, and she and I talked about it quite a bit. And when you've got a single incumbent position, you do need some overlap,
Oh,
especially
definitely, I
because
agree with that. I just
Yeah.
thought maybe we could have a little better time frame.
yeah,
Yeah, I understand that, and I think this person is ready to retire as soon as possible. It just kind of depends on the personal situation.
which in hearing, it seems very reasonable to understand what that circumstances are. So
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
yes.
Roxanne, Monty, is it reasonable to say that there's some consensus for the $20,000 out of that general fund budget, but if this gets extended into 10, 11, 12 months, any of those additional dollars would then come out of solid waste?
I think what Roxanne gave you was a worst case number.
Yeah.
That was a worst case, right?
Go ahead,
Or
Joanne.
did you want to?
No, I just wanted to comment on
Sure.
that. The April 29th of 2022 would be the worst case scenario because we do have a written voluntary resignation retirement notice.
Okay.
That's finalized. So that's worst case.
Okay,
Okay.
It's
All
more
right.
than likely gonna be sooner.
That
but I'll
helps.
get
Okay.
something from
Thank-
the HR director's side to say, when is that hard deadline?
right.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
And by the time we roll around to budgeting for 2022, I'm hoping that we have
A solid date.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, something more solid, and then we can reevaluate this.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
so speaking with Roxanne last week about all of this, it is very important that we do some cross-training in this area. Very important, because they just don't come in here knowing all of it.
Right, I agree with that. So are you looking for a motion and a,
I think that'd be great, yeah, a
All right,
motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the Department of Development to temporarily fund that overlap in the wetland and solid waste program lead.
Second,
motion's been made and seconded to fund the solid waste temporary overlap in the wetlands and solid waste.
Was that Commissioner Heinen as a
Yep.
second?
yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
I'm sorry. I should-
And I'll do the roll call.
Is there any other discussion first? All right, hearing none, Monty, you wanna call the roll?
Yes, Commissioner Schlangen,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Pop,
Aye,
Commissioner Gopinski,
I,
Commissioner Heinen.
Aye.
Thank you.
carried.
Thank you all.
You bet.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Roxanne. Trying to be quick and we'll get to our closed session.
Okay.
Okay, so the first item is architectural services to look at possible options for relocating our DMV office. So we invited a gentleman named Graham Mailer, who's affiliated with Conlon Construction, to visit with us and look at some various options for where we could relocate DMV, and then give us his proposal for his costs to do this cost estimation work and do designs and so on, and work with staff on various options. And you see the attached proposal. Let's see, I believe his estimated fee is $5,600 to do this work. And those resources could come from our CIP fund. Graham has worked with us on renovations of Auditor Treasurer's Office before, and also our land services renovation, where it used to be a separate recorder and an assessor, and brought it together as one office. And we were very pleased with the work that was done on both those projects before. So surely no hesitation of going with Graham as the resource for this project. So I think in his proposal here, he would look at a couple of options. One is moving DMV where DOD is now, and then renovating the Auditor Treasurer's Office to accommodate both Auditor Treasurer and DOD. One option is actually expanding the space for Auditor Treasurer to accommodate both offices. I know in conversations with Roxanne and Nadine, this is certainly a very important issue, is we don't want those two offices to get even more compressed and be worse off than they are today. So that's going to be a really important concept, is it going to work? And we don't really know the answer to that yet. As I mentioned, when we were taking our tour of Human Services, one option that I tossed out to look at to give us more space is actually turning this boardroom into DOD office space. Of course, where would you all go? We looked at some possible space in the old Human Services building. A possibility, not sure, not the greatest building in the world, but does have public access and possibly room there. So it's an idea that kind of popped in my head as one maybe option if we just can't make that space there work. So I guess time will tell. Time will tell. One of the downsides of, if you put Auditor, Treasurer, and DOD in that space, there's really no room long-term for growth. If you have to add employees down the line, day one, it's going to be full. It's going to be full. So,
Mr. Chair, if I
Yes.
could. Monty, first of all, I appreciate getting this put together from these people. I guess my concern or my personal opinion is I don't know that we're ready to move ahead with this yet, because I don't believe we've seen all the potential options. I think we need to have more discussion with this board, with yourself, with department heads. I just, especially after the tour, because, and don't get me wrong, I think you all know I'm a big proponent of doing something with DMV.
yeah.
And it was a goal of our session back in March.
Right.
I just personally don't feel we're ready to commit yet to moving ahead
Okay.
with an architect, potential designs, because I don't feel that all the options are out on the table. I'm just not comfortable with that.
Sure. Makes sense. Yep.
Yeah, and I guess I would really like to see the two department heads in that. I think, we know what we did in land services, and I think that really worked out nice.
It's great.
It's great.
Perfect, yeah.
It worked out nice. And I want the outcome of this here to be that outcome in land services.
Yeah.
For both Department of Development and the Auditor Treasurer's Office.
Sure.
And I kind of agree with Commissioner Johnson that I don't know if we're at that level yet to really discuss where we want to go or what these department heads. I think both of them department heads that we're talking about have a good handle on what they need and where we're going to go. And like Commissioner Johnson, I support the DMV. I always have.
Yeah.
I think it's a service. I don't think it needs to be a huge revenue for us. I think, and you can talk to anybody countywide, maybe not as much over in the Sauk Rapids area, but you can talk to anybody countywide that they want that service and they don't expect it to make huge amounts of dollars.
Yeah.
So I think we need to have a lot of conversation, and I don't know where we're gonna go with this, because without expanding that Auditor Treasurer's Office, I see no solution to putting them two offices together in that part. You look at where our vault is and some of the other things, it looks like it's just not gonna work.
Mr. Chair, if I could, I'd just like to expand on that a little further. Again, especially after our tour,
Yeah.
especially after having Vetter Johnson here talking about our potentials for human services.
Yeah.
Which of course is nothing to do with DMV, but in the big picture, we've got some major decisions to make.
Yeah.
And I'm not interested in spending $5 on anything until we can really get together and hone in and then have these people come in and say, yes, this is an option, yes, this is possible, no, this is not possible.
I guess I kind of wonder, sorry, please finish.
And I'd really like, from my perspective, we need a cow sooner than later to really start and dig into these discussions. And it's not just DMV, it's human services, it's the facility as a whole, St. Cloud included. And so, in fact, on that cow, it's not only auditor treasurer, it's DOD, it's human services, Bob should be here, the board, Monty, property management probably. I really like to get going on it, and not, this is gonna take a long time to get resolved anyways, and so I really think we need to start now.
Sure.
Mr. Chair, so I've been sitting on the Human Services Board, and they're getting a game plan of what they actually need, what they need for space, how they can accommodate space being with COVID, and going forward with what we have to do now with COVID in the future. I think we need that from Nadine too, of what do we really need, okay, in the space that we truly need for all the employees over there. That's something we haven't had yet, or at least I haven't had yet. And I think we need to have that game plan too from all departments of what truly do they need.
Go ahead.
Well, I guess I'm a little skeptical on the human services part because I don't know where we're going with human services after this. You hear from some employees, they worked better at home, they were more successful at home. How much do we need? And I think we need to get back to normal before we have that discussion. Anything on human services is gonna have to be 6 months to a year when we're back to normal. What we think normal is, I don't know.
Yeah.
But the DMV and this part, I think, can move forward without that, because I don't think it's gonna, it could impact what we do with that. You talked about this, moving this room or whatever, but, we need, in my book, I'm not in favor of really looking at that human services thing for quite some time.
Mr. Chair, I'm wondering here is, I'm hearing some comments about maybe looking at, other options and so on and so forth. We probably would wanna work with just one architectural firm, because, we've been working with Vetter
Yeah.
on really the human services building. Would it make sense to roll this discussion really into Vetter?
Yes.
Rather than having Vetter here and Graham Mailer over here? Maybe we should just work with one architect then.
Yeah, even if we went, in my opinion, if we went down the road 2 years or whatever for human services, I think the same people should be involved on both of them, because they'll know what we want or what we're looking at possibly down the road, instead of having somebody come in for new. Do you have something?
Yes, Mr. Chair. This is what I'm hearing here is it's gonna be a complete chain reaction. It's, you do one thing, that's gonna affect the next two groups. And we better have a plan for all groups before we get into this, because, we've got an oath up here to make sure we're taking care of the county on the taxes side of things, but we also gotta make sure we're providing the services. This has gotta be a very well thought out plan to try and get the first time.
And the other part that I see is that we really haven't got a feel for what St. Cloud can offer. They haven't been there. I mean, there's been very few people working in the St. Cloud facility since we do it. We don't have a feel on how they like it, or if they like it, or if they don't like it, or if it's better to do business that way. Maybe it's better to do business with more people in St. Cloud. We don't know that part. And that's why I'm very skeptical on human services.
And Mr. Chair, if I could, I'd agree. My intent was not to say that we're gonna move ahead with something with human services, but that we have to remember that we're looking at human services.
Right, yep, I agree with
It's
that.
part of the big picture here, and a very large part of it.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, and I would have to agree, even with talking about human services, we'll have no clue. I mean, if the government doesn't pass the waiver program, then everyone has to come back.
Right.
So we won't know if they're gonna pass that or not until next month, hopefully sooner than later,
But- I don't know, Monty, before the pandemic, we did have people that were working from home part-time, right?
Very few.
Very few.
Just a tiny handful, yeah.
Okay.
Just a tiny handful of human services, yep, so.
Mr. Chair, would it be reasonable to have some consensus from the board to ask Monty to put together some information with his department heads and with the auditor treasurer's office, and let's get some needs, and let's get a cow going, and so we can talk about them. That doesn't mean these needs can't change or can't move.
Right.
But we've gotta have a starting point, I think it starts with the department heads and the
Yeah.
under treasurer's office in this case.
Mr. Chair, I would have to agree with you, Commissioner Johnson, about that. We need a definite direction from Nadine about DMV, of what you truly need, how the spaces can be set up.
Okay,
And Mr. Chair, from our MICA meeting, I don't think that is gonna be figured out next month
In what
from
DMV
people
meeting?
working from home.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't get that out of the meeting,
so,
so it might be even longer than that.
well, they're gonna have to act on it before the recess,
Yeah.
so hopefully June.
Yeah, exactly. I
I'm
didn't get,
thinking
I-
they're gonna write something into this to allow more work from home in the future.
Well, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chair, I just want to reiterate, from my perspective, I don't want DMV being pushed off the table here.
No.
But
Yep.
we've got to make sure to include it in the big picture.
Yep.
Okay.
I agree.
So it sounds like we'll put this issue on hold, but we need to get a committee of the whole scheduled with department heads and you all to explore this issue of space.
yes.
Yep.
And if I could, Mr. Chair, and Nadine too, if you have some possibilities to maybe put forth some projected revenues of where you see DMV going, especially if we're able to, with your additional staff now, if we're looking at additional staff and additional services, what's the potential?
Okay.
We probably should move on to our closed session if we may, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Commissioner Schlangen, we're going to use a different go-to meeting for the closed session, and I emailed you that link
Okay.
a while ago.
Also, Commissioner Schlangen, this is a closed session, so anybody that's in your home or whatever cannot be in the room or have any access to this. Or else you would
So-
have to
Yep.
exit out of this closed
Yeah,
session.
so I'm gonna close this go-to session now, and then we'll open up the closed meeting one. Thank you. Okay. So could you all do a motion and go in closed session, and we gotta put up signs and. all
Motion to
that.
go in closed session.
Second,
Do we need to do a roll on that?
Sorry?
Do we need to do a roll on closed session?
She's gone, so we'll
Okay.
just assume we said
We're
aye.
assuming everybody. We're good.
Yeah.
We have three of us here, so.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here. So let me get this next go-to session open. So, Tessa and,
Where was Beth coming about her sister going to talk about something different?
everybody can join us.
I know.
Come on now. I need to stop live streaming.